Am I wrong for disappearing for a night after my husband ambushed me with an unwelcome surprise? I, 29 female, am no contact with my father. We had a really good relationship when I was a kid, but he cheated on my mother, who already had some mental health issues, and was caught in a pretty damning way. The aftermath was horrible and deeply traumatic. Let's just leave it at that. I had just started college at the time, and basically my whole life fell apart within a week. My father tried to justify it, and I told him that the options were A, immediately break up with the woman he cheated with and go to therapy with me to find out if I could ever forgive him, or B, get out of my life. He picked A, but didn't actually break up with her. I found out because I expected that and that she sucked at covering her tracks, so I haven't spoken to him in a decade and he's essentially dead to me. I miss the dad I had in childhood sometimes, but otherwise I don't regret cutting him off. My older brothers also cut him off shortly after, although one is back to low contact to a degree. My husband comes from a very different kind of family, and the whole situation is mind-blowing for him, largely because his parents are lovely and would never do something like this. He can't imagine things being so bad that you would never just speak to your parent again. We've talked about it a couple of times in the past, and he asked if I would ever reach back out, for closure if nothing else. I said, over my dead body, so I thought he understood. A couple of weeks ago, he asked me to meet him for dinner after work, which we do occasionally. We had just sat down and talked for a minute when my husband said that he had a surprise for me. A minute later, my father walks up to the table. I immediately got up and walked out. They followed me, but I got in my car and left before they could catch up. My phone started ringing, so I just turned it off. I checked into a hotel and set up my work laptop and spent the rest of the evening working because that helps when I'm upset. I didn't turn my phone back on until the next morning and saw I had over 50 missed calls and a bunch of texts and DMs from people trying to contact me. My husband has apologized profusely for the whole thing. Evidently, my father reached out to him some time back and he thought I would change my mind after hearing what he had to say. He was furious with me for just completely disappearing though, because he thought something terrible had happened to me or that I had left him. I told him it served him right for going behind my back and tricking me, but the mutual friends he reached out to see if they had heard from me think I overreacted and I should have let him know that I was safe. This is one of those things where you have to actually listen to your partner and believe them when they're telling you something. When they say this person is dead to me, believe them. Or if you want to go down a different path and try to reopen that connection or relationship, have a conversation. Springing it on them when they've already had in their mind that they don't want to have a relationship with this person is the worst possible thing you could do. If you had talked to her and tried to which it seems like you have and she didn't budge, take that as an answer. No is a complete sentence. Am I wrong for telling my boyfriend that I won't be donating part of my liver to him? My 31 male boyfriend in the past had a binge drinking problem before we met. By the time we met, he had been sober for years, but he had cirrhosis on his liver that doesn't look to be getting better and had some really bad lab results. He also has an embolism in his lung, so he has reduced lung function and diabetes. He went to a liver specialist who mentioned that my boyfriend might need a liver transplant in the future, and he came back pretty bummed about that, understandably. He then, not seriously, but kind of hopefully, let me know that I should donate part of my liver to him if we matched. I told him no, and I was kind of shocked he would ask. We've been dating 8 months, and while I like him, I'm not convinced he's the one yet. He has a lot of qualities I like, but some that drive me up the wall, including having poor personal hygiene and not looking after his diet and eating mostly fast food. He was surprised and then tried to cover it up, saying he didn't expect it and was just joking. I felt like he was serious but didn't want to seem that way and told him I would only think about doing something so personal for a parent, sibling, or spouse, and only if we were on good terms. Then he joked, saying he could just ask me to marry him to get my liver. And I told him, now that he's mentioned it, it would make any marriage proposal seem disingenuous, so I wouldn't get matched to see if I was a candidate beforehand. He got serious and told me that the liver isn't a big transplant and I would still be able to keep part of my liver. I told him it doesn't matter that the liver regenerates. I wouldn't even think about doing it for just a boyfriend. He got offended and said he would do it for me if the situation was reversed, and I said the problem is the situation isn't reversed, so I'm not convinced he would just because he's spouting platitudes. He got really angry and stormed out and hasn't been back in hours. So, am I the asshole for being overly honest with him that I wouldn't donate any liver for him?
Am I in the wrong for telling a man that I was not willing to be a housewife on his salary? I've been seeing this man for a few months and this has been good. We have fun and are quite compatible in most things. However, recently we were having a conversation about long-term goals and where we see ourselves in 5 years. He said that he wanted to be married and have a couple kids in a couple years, and a housewife. He said that he feels like he'll fail as a husband if his wife works. I said that he should take into account that a lot of women actually have dreams and goals and his wife may not want to be a housewife. I said I wouldn't want to, and especially not a full-time stay-at-home mom. He was trying to convince me of why it would be such a good idea for me to quit my job and just relax because I've been working since I was 16 and had no one to rely on but myself. Have always had multiple jobs, even in college, and have never had time to just relax and not do anything. I I said being a stay-at-home mom or even a housewife is not relaxing unless the husband is a millionaire who hires help. It's not just lounging around all day when chores and or childcare need to be done. I said I would consider it if he made so much money that my salary would seem like peanuts. I explained that although I do not admire this quality about myself, I'm someone who values comfort and convenience. I've had a very high-paying job for a long time and I've gotten used to living a good life. I'm not going to downgrade my lifestyle just because it will allow me to stay at home and not have a job. Nothing about being unemployed and living an average life sounds appealing to me. I like being able to afford the lifestyle that I've dreamt of having as a child growing up in poverty, and I'm not going to allow myself to downgrade for something that isn't a good enough reason to me. We live in the UK. I work for a foreign company, so they pay me a lot more than the standard salary here, but he earns about $35,000 a year. He believes that he can comfortably have a housewife with that salary. I said maybe he can, but that housewife will not be me. We would not be able to live a good life on his salary, and I would not be happy. If we both worked and combined our income, we could have a really good life instead of living an average life on his salary alone. He wasn't speaking to me much in the days after that conversation, and I understood. He probably didn't think that we were all that compatible. However, he called me yesterday and got into a 15-minute rant about how I went out of my way to make him feel like shit and worthless by pointing out that I make more than him and I wouldn't want to be a housewife on his salary. I said that I was being honest about what I wanted and I shouldn't have to lie about these things. I said we should both be glad that we had the conversation and realize that we aren't as compatible as we thought, so we don't waste each other's time. He called me shallow and rude for this. I don't really think that I said anything outrageous, but sometimes being too blunt does make me look rude and mean. So, am I in the wrong? My husband has known about my affair. How can I save our marriage? I've been together with my husband since sophomore year of college. I'm 29 and he's 28. We got married 5 years ago. It's been amazing, but I kind of miss being young. A couple of times a week after work, I go to the same bar when I don't want to sit in traffic. There's a guy that I would run into there, and it went from friendship to harmless flirting. Next thing you know, I found myself having an affair. The thing is, I love my husband, and this guy was a younger version of my husband, making me feel young. To avoid going into too much detail, my sister recently found out and alerted my husband behind my back. My sister told me that she told my husband, and he told her that he already knows and cried to her. I didn't believe her and thought that she was just saying that because she wanted me to tell him when she found out. However, she knew something that I didn't tell her. I've been begging my husband for us to start trying for a kid, but he's been unequivocal in saying that it's not the right time, despite our previous discussions about having kids at 28. My baby fever is high. She told me that the affair is why he doesn't want to have a baby right now. I never told her about him not wanting to have a baby right now. This prompted me to investigate, and I started digging into his phone, snooping with his password. He found out months ago, and it caused him to be depressed. He's talking about it with his friend. She keeps telling him that he should leave, and at first, he was hesitant, saying he's going to try to remind me of why I married him. She told him to just leave, and that he can stay with her and her wife in the guest bedroom. In one of the texts, he said that he's been checked out and is sending apartment listings. This all makes sense because in the beginning of the affair, he was being extra nice. We went on a trip when he was trying to remind me of why I married him. A few weeks ago, he seemed to start acting completely different. I feel horrible. I had no idea that he would ever find out. I blocked my affair partner on everything and I'm ready to save my marriage.
Am I wrong when after my mom said I'm useless, I stopped helping? I, female 20, live at home with my single mother and 5 siblings while I finish university. I'll call them A, male 23, B, male 22, C, male 17, D, female 15, and M, 12. Almost every day, I wash dishes, load and unload the dishwasher, vacuum the common areas, drive my younger siblings to and back from school, and cook dinner while also attending university. I get no help from my mom or siblings, nor do I get any appreciation for what I do. Well, last week on Wednesday, I came home late around 9 p.m. from university as I was talking to my teacher about the lecture. And as soon as I got home, my mom started yelling at me because I wasn't able to cook dinner and there were dirty dishes in the sink. And my brother A had to pick up my younger siblings from school. I was upset, but then she said, "You're useless and don't help at all." Is it wrong that when my mom said I'm useless, I stopped helping? I was upset by this, but then she said, "You're useless and don't help me at all." I replied back, "Sorry for being useless," and went to my room. That is so sad. The following day, I didn't drop my siblings off to school, which forced my mom to have to do it. I didn't make dinner either, and I stayed up at university until they closed the library at 9 p.m. I continued doing this, and the house is now a mess, and my younger siblings have missed a few days of school. And as a result, my other siblings are mad at me. I'm just wondering, am I wrong? I feel like I'm not, but hearing it from my siblings and my mom every day is getting to me. Also, my family is from a foreign background, so my mom's beliefs are very old-fashioned. I also want to mention that I wouldn't be able to afford moving out, and I don't have a job due to a small allowance that I do get from the government. And I contribute $150 a week towards household expenses. And my older brothers are both employed but don't help out.